Not aliens, not zombies, just us. Apocalypse movies, caused by human stupidity. Does the end of the world have to come from space or zombies? Not really. The worst disasters are often caused by humans, through pride, ignorance, and stupidity. In this ranking, you'll discover movies where humanity itself triggers the apocalypse, proving that our own irresponsibility can be the deadliest weapon of all. The Titan. Humanity itself has brought the Earth to the brink of extinction. Overexploitation of the planet, wars, and lack of responsibility have made life increasingly difficult. Faced with an impending catastrophe, scientists are creating Project Titan to turn humans into beings capable of living on another world. Rick Janssen, a soldier, voluntarily submits to the experiment, believing it is the only salvation for his family. However, as his body and psyche undergo a drastic transformation, it becomes clear that the man, seeking to correct his own mistakes, creates another tragedy. The film shows that in our quest for survival, we are capable of sacrificing humanity, and instead of seeking rescue on Earth, we try to escape the consequences we have caused ourselves. Exit. The Korean film Exit from 2019 shows a catastrophe, the source of which lies in human greed and recklessness. There is a toxic gas leak in the city, which in a few moments turns the streets into a death trap. This is the result of the irresponsibility of people for whom industrial development and quick profit were more important than safety. At the center of the events is Yong Nam, a former mountaineer considered a lifelong loser, who during a family party faces a chance to save his loved ones and prove his worth. Together with a former college friend, he must climb buildings and fight for breath in a world where the air has become deadly. This is a story that shows that humanity creates its own disasters, and then only a few can find the courage to face them. Zone 414. Why do people create something that can destroy them? In 2021's Zone 414, it is greed and an obsession with technology that has led to the creation of an android city, a place where the rich buy into every fantasy, and the line between man and machine blurs dangerously. When the daughter of a corporate owner disappears in the zone, a private investigator is drawn into a dark web of lies. He is accompanied by the android Jane, who herself is asking questions about her identity. It turns out that the biggest threat is not the machines, but the people who created and used them without any moral boundaries. This is a story that shows that man, by escaping from his own problems into technology, himself opens the door to disaster. In the Earth, in a world plunged into a pandemic, man still can't stop experimenting. In the Earth of 2021, a scientist and his guide travel deep into the woods to find a missing researcher and check the results of her work. The research was supposed to save humanity, but it soon becomes clear that interference with nature has triggered something that can no longer be stopped. The forest becomes a trap. Hallucinations, incomprehensible phenomena, and aggression are increasing with each passing moment. It is not nature that is to blame, but people who have tried to control it, believing that they can bend its laws to their own needs. The film poses a painful question. How many more times must man provoke a tragedy before he understands that not everything was created to be controlled? Idiocracy. Does disaster have to come in the form of wars or cataclysms? 2006's Idiocracy shows that the greatest danger may lie in our own stupidity. The film takes us to a future where people have ceased to evolve, and ignorance and consumerism have completely taken over. Intelligence has ceased to be a value, science has collapsed, and society lives only for pleasure and advertising. The protagonist, an ordinary soldier of our time, wakes up after a hibernation experiment and discovers that he has become the smartest man on Earth, which says everything about where humanity has gone. It's a bitter vision in which tragedy is born not from an external threat, but from our own thoughtlessness and laziness. The film shows that if we ourselves underestimate knowledge and reason, the apocalypse will come quietly, in the form of a world overwhelmed by total stupidity. I am legend. The fight for a better tomorrow is not always successful. Sometimes it leads to the end of the world. In 2007's I Am Legend, it was the people who caused their own destruction. A brilliant cancer drug, instead of saving billions of lives, turned into a deadly virus. Humanity tried to cure itself, but in the pursuit of progress, it released something uncontrollable into the world. In a desolate New York City, Robert Neville, a scientist and sole survivor, is left surrounded by hordes of mutated, hungry monsters that were once human. Each of his days is a struggle for survival, but also a desperate attempt to find an antidote and redeem himself for the mistake that destroyed civilization. The film shows that the greatest tragedies are born of our best intentions, and that the price of human hubris can be the end of an entire species. Anon. What happens when a person puts his entire life in the hands of technology? Anon of 2018 shows a future in which privacy has been completely erased. Every movement, every thought, and every glance is recorded and available to the authorities. It is humans, greedy for control and security, who have created a system that has destroyed freedom. In this world, a mystery emerges, murders that leave no digital traces. The detective tries to unravel the case, and his trail leads to a mysterious woman living outside the system, invisible to the electronic eye. It turns out that the biggest threat is not machines, but the human desire for total power over another human being. The film warns that when humanity obsessively builds a society without secrets, it prepares for itself a prison from which there is no escape. Mute. When technology rushes forward and morality is left behind, a world like the one in 2018's Mute is born. It was people with their greed and selfishness who built a futuristic city full of neon lights, but devoid of a soul. In this dirty, broken Berlin lives Leo, a carpenter who lost his voice as a child. His life turns into a nightmare when the woman he loves disappears. He begins a desperate search, delving into a half-world of gangs, prostitution, and illegal medical experiments. The further he searches, the more it becomes apparent that the biggest threat is not machines or aliens, but people themselves, ready to sell others out for money and power. The film shows that it is not progress that creates tragedy, but the lack of humanity in those who should be watching over it. Interstellar. It wasn't space that doomed Earth, but humanity. In 2014's Interstellar, the planet is dying. Dust storms, food shortages, and the collapse of civilization are the result of decades of greed, overexploitation, and ignoring the warnings of scientists. With humanity teetering on the brink, a group of astronauts sets out through a wormhole in search of a new home. Cooper, a pilot and father, risks everything to save his family and future generations. However, the film reveals that it was humanity itself that created the very problem he now desperately tries to escape. Weaving science with emotion, the story demonstrates that humanity's greatest strength lies in love and hope, but without responsibility for our own mistakes, even the most beautiful feelings may not be enough. It's a warning and a reminder that our home is being destroyed not by space, but by ourselves. Don't look up. The greatest threat wasn't the comet, but the people who ignored it. In Don't Look Up, two astronomers discover a massive object heading straight for Earth. Instead of acting immediately, the authorities, media, and society downplay the problem, preferring memes, political games, and the pursuit of money. The catastrophe becomes a spectacle, and rescue becomes a business. It is human greed, vanity, and disbelief in science that lead to a tragedy that could have been avoided. The film, though dressed in satire, reveals a brutal truth. Civilization often hastens its own demise because, instead of acting collectively, it chooses lies, convenience, and indifference. It is a mirror for our times in which the greatest cataclysm proves to be human stupidity. As it turns out, the greatest monsters don't live in space or underground. We bring the worst destruction upon ourselves. These films are a chilling reminder that sometimes the biggest threat to the world isn't nature or technology, but human stupidity.